Beginning on the 1st of October 2025, the US government began its current federal government shutdown. The shutdown occurred because the Democratic Party senators refused to support a continuing resolution that was put forward on 1st of October by the senators of the Republican Party. And that continuing resolution was to provide funding for the US government to the end of the financial year. At the time of writing, Republicans put up continuing resolutions for funding to the Senate 9 future times, and on each occasion, Democratic senators have refused to support it on those nine additional occasions. So clearly, this shutdown is a matter, part of the strategy of the Democratic Party. So let's look at why they decided upon this strategy of shutting down the US administration and see what their objectives might be. We think a good start to understanding the Democratic Party strategy is gained by reading a paper which was published on 22nd of July by University of California, Berkeley public health professor William H. Dow. And the paper is called "What Do Looming Cuts to Medicaid Really Mean?" And what he's talking about is the cuts to Medicaid which were in the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, which was signed into law only days earlier on the 4th of July. His article is mostly about, and the article that Dow writes is about the effect of the One Big Beautiful Bill on Medicaid. Dow does briefly mention the expiry of subsidies to the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. A lot of other writers have said that this dispute is about Obamacare, but that's not the way it's dealt with within the paper by Dow, and that's not what we think is happening here. We do have a separate paper about the problems with Obamacare, and it's how it's a breakdown in the markets that was supposed to support Obamacare. Now, Berkeley is a really interesting university. It's one of the universities of the University of California. It's in the Bay Area, the northern part of across San Francisco Bay from San Francisco, and Berkeley was in congressional area number 12, which was where Nancy Pelosi began as a member of Congress, and she later on moved to the 11th district from this 12th district, which is in Berkeley. Congressional district number 12 is very much part of the Democratic Party heartland in California. The paper that Professor Dow looks at is an analysis of the One Big Beautiful Bill published by the Kaiser Family Foundation, which in turn uses data from the Congressional Budget Office. I've actually examined that paper that used as a source document, and the source document says that the result is of the One Big Beautiful Bill is to cut spending to Medicaid by $99 billion a year. In his article, Professor Dow rounds this up to $100 billion a year. But let's say 99 or $100 billion, it's an awful lot of money. Medicaid is intended to provide basic health to the poor. Medicaid is funded by the federal government, but the actual services are provided at state government level, and in every state that agency has a different name. In 2023, the Congressional Budget Office says total spending on Medicaid was $870 billion. But whether it's 870 or a trillion, it's bigger than the GDP of 170 countries in the world. There's only about 20 countries in the world have a larger GDP than the US spends annually on Medicaid. When we look at that spending for Medicaid, the biggest section goes to American seniors and the disabled. There are only 21% of enrollees, yet 52% of the spending. Poor children are also receive Medicaid. They're 37% of the enrollees, but only 15% of the spending. Professor Dow's paper shows that Medicaid is particularly important, and this helps us understand the politics of the matter for what he calls undocumented immigrants. In a separate talk by Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, he refers to this same group as illegal aliens, and that contributes enormously to the politics of what's happening here. Now, we've actually looked at the terms of those use of who says illegal aliens and who says undocumented immigrants, and polling tells us there's twice as many people use the word illegal immigrants as use the phrase undocumented immigrants. But the use of that term undocumented immigrants is particularly strong in California, where Professor Dow is based, or in New York State. Again, Medicaid is intended to provide basic health care for the poor, and the program is funded by the federal government, but provided the administration is done by state governments. Speaker Mike Johnson, speaking on the 1st of October, when the shutdown began, said that Medicaid was intended for people in a situation of distress, such as young pregnant women or poor men who was down on their luck, the destitute and the disabled and the elderly, he said. The sources of the saving on Medicaid at the time when the bill was passed appeared to be from two particular areas. One of these was identification of recipients as US citizens. And this is when you get to the debate. Republicans tried to reduce these benefits only to US citizens, but the Democrats would like the benefits to continue to be extended officially or unofficially to illegal aliens or undocumented immigrants. So let's talk about the issue of American citizens and how this is dealt with in One Big Beautiful Bill. This involves people receiving benefits or adults receiving benefits to actually prove they were American citizens by actually turning up once a year at the state agency and identify themselves in person. The state agency that's paying the Medicaid. And now you'll recall a lot of analysis was done earlier in the year by Doge and found a lot of people who were receiving claims were either long dead or were yet to be born. But they were still somehow receiving federal benefits. The Republicans included in the bill a condition that the recipients actually turn up at the agency once a year to prove that they were American citizens, and again that would exclude illegal aliens from receiving the benefits. There's also a work test that the Republicans included, and if you were between the ages of 19 and 64 and you wanted to receive the medical benefits through Medicaid, you have to prove that you were working at least 80 hours every month or attending an educational institution like a university or a college for that same amount of time. When the bill became law, it was said that these provisions would result in reductions in Medicaid spending of 15%. When Professor Dow did his paper, he based it, like I said, on work by the Kaiser Family Foundation, and he examined that document, and he found that's where he declared his savings from. I've examined the same document that was cited by Professor Dow that tells us the reduction in spending is $99 a year. As a percentage of the total spending of $870 billion a year, which is shown in 2023 by the Congressional Budget Office, that's a saving of 11.4%, not 15%. But still, the intent of the Democratic Party is to continue the shutdown and until these savings are reversed. And the previous now, why are they doing that? It could be because in Trump's first term, Trump himself shut down the government until there was funding for building the one big beautiful wall in the south. And at that time, it was that shutdown ran for 35 days, which was the longest shutdown ever. At that time, his popularity in ratings fell. Now, it seems to me that the Democrats may have anticipated that his popularity would fall again in this shutdown, but polling from Rasmussen shows his favourability is at least as strong as when the shutdown started, and indeed it's much higher at this level of the presidency than either of the Democratic governments that the Democratic presidents that he followed or followed him. In addition to the shutdown, there was a planned national protest called the No King protest about Trump, held last weekend in 50 American states. So this was a plan to apparently to happen at the same time as the shutdown. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, first is that China is using the shutdown to launch aggressive demands for control of world trade in return for rare earths. And what's interesting from an economic point of view is a paper that was published by Standard & Poor's, and they call it the rising risk of a prolonged shutdown. The previous shutdown was 35 days or 5 weeks, and it's quite possible for this shutdown to go on longer than that. In their paper, Standard & Poor's calculate that each 2 weeks of shutdown reduced quarterly GDP by 0.3%. We believe the shutdown will be at least 4 weeks, and this will reduce growth for the fourth quarter from the current 2% annualized down to 1.4%. And we've already had in the weeks of the shutdown, we've already seen the US 10-year bond yield fall by 10 basis points, and we think there might be more to come. So this thing could continue for quite a while, and it's good to advise just a little bit of caution until this ends, because I think this story needs more time to unfold.